Dawn in Daytona Beach. Another day for fun and frolic in the Florida sunshine, and maybe a quiet run by the ocean. "11 months out of the year, it may be nothing more than a carefree start to a new day. But in February, a Florida sunrise means the beginning of a new racing season. In 1991, STP and First Brands Corporation are celebrating one of the most enduring sponsor-driver relationships in motorsports history, and at the same time, heralding a new era of stock car racing's Super Bowl. This is the 20th year that STP has sponsored stock cars driven by Richard Petty in NASCAR's premier Winston Cup division. To help mark this unprecedented partnership in major American motorsports, STP has become the first corporate sponsor in the history of the world's foremost stock car race by presenting the 33rd annual Daytona 500. We'll spend the next few minutes with King Richard, who embodies the past, present, and future of big-time stock car racing in the United States. You'll join us at his home in Level Cross, North Carolina, as we discuss some special moments in Richard's legendary career and focus on the ride of a lifetime, Richard Petty and STP. Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Jerry Punch, and this, well, the king needs no introduction, Richard Petty. And Richard, you've been competing here since 1959, but this year the 1991 Daytona 500 takes on a very special significance for you.
Well, yeah, you know, I've been with STP now for like 20 years. This is our 20th anniversary, and then all of a sudden they're sponsoring the Daytona 500. You know, it's the Daytona 500 by STP, so all of that stuff rolled up makes it really a big event for STP, but it makes a bigger event for Richard Petty.
Richard, tell us about what you remember the first time you came here in 1959 to drive, about seeing this racetrack.
Well, I remember coming through the tunnel, and at that time there was no buildings inside. They had a few grandstands, had a guardrail around the racetrack, and I couldn't believe how big this place was. Biggest thing I'd ever seen was Darlington, and I had never run Darlington, so this was the first super speedway race that I ever run. And come in, I couldn't believe how big it was, and it was just a deal. We came with convertibles. They run a convertible circuit and then a Winston Cup circuit, and we run 129 mile an hour and thought that was flying. You know what I mean? Now the pace car runs 129 mile an hour, so it's just grown so much that it's just I can't even compare to what it was when we first came.
You were optimistic before you came here, and it has been a wonderful week for Richard Petty and the STP Pontiac. First qualifying and then the qualifying race. You've got to really be excited about the accomplishments you've already had this week.
Well, yeah, we've had a good week. Okay, now we've got to finish it up. We've done the qualifying, the semifinals. Now we're getting ready for the finals. And you know, if we can back up what we've done in the other things that we've done, then we can have a good day on Sunday. So just a situation that they're working hard at it. We're trying a few little new things, trying to make it at least be consistent. And if we can do that, we're going to be pretty tough come Sunday.
Well, the field is set for Sunday now, Richard. 42 cars, and you're starting third. Your best starting spot since 1977. Now, what can we expect when they drop that green flag from the king?
Well, I hope I can keep up. I guess that's what everybody wants to do to begin with. The big deal is running a few laps, get oriented to what's going on, who's running good on Sunday instead of who was running good on Thursday or in practice. So just the main deal is be calm enough to let the first 5 or 6 laps just sort of unfold and, you know, stay out of trouble, and then we'll go racing from there.
Well, we're going to see what's going to happen on the Daytona 500, but first, Richard, we had a chance to visit before you came down here, so let's go back to Level Cross and reflect on some of those early years for Richard Petty. In Level Cross, North Carolina, sits a house fit for a king. The frantic pace of a career in Winston Cup racing must be balanced by the quiet refuge of home, away from the roar of engines and the strain of competition. From here, Richard Petty can take in the splendor of a Carolina morning, looking out on a career unmatched in the annals of NASCAR Winston Cup racing. The magic numbers fill up the record book in a boundless progression of excellence. 200 wins, 1,000 starts, and 7 national championships. Having raced in 5 different decades, Richard Petty has woven his way into the fabric of the American sports scene. There is even an STP Pontiac on permanent display at the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C.
We got a bigger dog down in the dog lot.
If the southeastern United States is the heart of American stock car racing, then Richard Petty is the soul. The Petty name is sacred out here. Respect for that name, as well as for his father Lee's wishes, were what helped Richard find the right time and the right place to take those first steps along what has become an historic path to stardom.
Yeah, 30 years ago. Dick Petty. You know Dick Petty?
Did he ever mount to much?
He didn't really mount to much. What happened, now of course this was probably a southern paper that wrote that, but we used to go north, and anytime you got above Washington or Richmond, then Richard became Dick. And we was up there running somewhere, and Mother was up there, and she told him, she's talking to some of them reporters, she said, look, if I'd have wanted him called Dick, I would have named him Dick. I named him Richard because I want him to be called Richard.
Richard, unlike a lot of kids today, I guess, so when their parents tell them something, they think about it for a few seconds and then they do what they want to do. But you weren't that way. When Lee told you, when your dad told you he didn't want you to drive a race car until you were 21, you listened to him.
Well, I didn't have any choice, really. You know, I guess when I turned around 18 or something, I come in one day and I said, you know, Dad, I want to start driving a race car. And you know, at that time, we didn't have 2 or 3 people working on a race car, and I was probably the chief mechanic, if you want to look at it that way. And then he said, you know, you're not old enough, said, you wait till you're 21, and said, you'll do a lot of growing up in those years between 18 and 21. Said, you come back when you're 21, we'll talk about it. And then when I became old enough, I went back in, I said, okay, I'm 21 now, I want to drive. And he didn't hesitate. He said, you know, there's a car over in the corner, so y'all go ahead and get that ready and go to Columbia, South Carolina and run the race.
Did you have a preference back then? Did you like the big track at Daytona where you had already been, or did you like the little tracks, the dirt tracks?
Well, what was nice about the big track to me, I was just starting out. So when we went to Daytona, I had as much experience as anybody. Nobody had ever run that kind of racetrack. So anything I learned was a learning process. I didn't have to relearn or forget something that I had already known. So from that standpoint, it really made it easier on me to come into the racing at the time that all the super speedways were being built. So you know, I really didn't have a preference. Man, I'm 21 years old, 22. If there's a racetrack, I didn't care where it went uphill, downhill, or backwards. I just wanted to race.
Richard, when people talk about Richard Petty, they talk about Petty Blue, the color Petty Blue. It's like no other color, no other blue you can find. Where did Petty Blue come from? I mean, this car will stand out in a crowd or on a racetrack or anywhere. How did this color selection?
Well, really, where it came about was when we got ready to go to Daytona in 1959. We had just built that new Oldsmobile convertible. And up to that time, what we had some white cars, and we'd trimmed them in blue, and just different color cars. And we wound up getting ready to paint the car, and I didn't have enough white, and I didn't have enough blue to paint the car. So we just poured it all in. We remembered and painted the thing, and then I remembered how much we had in it. Once we got it painted, everybody liked it. Said, "Man, this is super." And so the only thing about it was in about a week, 2 weeks, the thing started turning kind of white, getting kind of flaky looking. And so what we did, we went to Greensboro, and talked to the paint boy up there, told him about the mixture and stuff that we had, and he said, well, I can take care of that. So he mixed it up 3 to 1 or whatever color I had done, and then he put some different colors in it to keep it from fading. And since then, he's the only one in the country that's got that formula. It's a situation where it's not a registered formula or anything, but there's just one man in the world that knows the formula, and he's still in Greensboro.
Richard, we're going to show you a little tape here of your second win at Daytona. The first one came in '64. This one came in 1966. The first multiple winner on a super speedway.
Yeah, this was the one that we started off and we run along, and I think it winds up that it started raining at the end of the race, and we wound up actually winning the race under caution. I think maybe might have been a lap ahead or something. You know, I'm making a high buck pit stop. I'm cleaning my own windshield. I roll the window down, clean my own windshield, and then I idle out. Now it's so much different now than what it was then. That it's just a different league, more or less. Then, like you say, all the windows had to work. You know, they had doors on the car, although they were bolted. You know, all this kind of stuff. The car was a lot stocker. It didn't appear any stocker, but when you got to really looking underneath, what they did then was took a stock car and rebuilt it into a race car. Now we build a race car and take the stock sheet metal and put on it, so it's just a whole different ballgame.
In 1967, the year of all years for you early in your career, and what probably, you know, ushered you into a national hero as far as not only in motorsports but in any kind of sports, because you took off and had a tremendous year, won a tremendous amount of money for any athlete that year.
Well, it was just a situation where we started the year, and you know, we ended up 66 was a pretty good year for us, and we started in 67, and I think we had one new car and one old car. You know, you didn't have 8 or 10 cars then. You had a couple of race cars, and that was about it. And along about mid-season, we just broke out and just won 10 races in a row, and then you know what I mean? It was a good season up till then, don't get me wrong, but we wasn't winning but every other one. All of a sudden, you got to winning every one, and it was just a dream situation. No matter what happened in the race, we wound up winning. You know, I built one new car that year, and we fell out of 4 races and fell out with that one car all 4 races. And after the 4th time we fell out, I told Dale, I said, put that thing over in the corner. It's got a bad personality. We won't run it anymore. We went back to the 66 car, probably been updated as 67.
Your year put motorsports on the map, and this fella here escalated you into legendary form. They said this is the making of the king, and they started comparing you with people like DiMaggio and Babe Ruth and some of the other stars of years past. Let's take a look, Richard.
In every sport, a superstar emerges. Babe Ruth in baseball, in boxing, Jack Dempsey. And during 1967, another superstar emerged, burning up the NASCAR stock racing circuit in America's Southeast. His name is Richard Petty. Richard Petty and his big blue number 43 made a shambles of the stock car record books in 1967, winning almost everything in sight. Listen to a few statistics. Petty started 48 races in the 1967 season. He won 27 of them, some on small dirt or paved tracks, others on the big superspeedways. No other NASCAR race driver ever won more than 18 races in a single year before. Richard won almost $130,000 in prize money in 1967, an all-time record, making him one of the highest paid men in professional sport. In 9 years of stock car racing, Richard Petty has chalked up 75 first places, every one in a Plymouth. He pushes that record higher every time he wins a race. During August, September, and October of 1967, Richard Petty smashed another record. He entered and took first place in 10 races in a row. Richard's feats in racing are becoming legendary. His 75 career wins are like Babe Ruth's mark of 714 career homers. His 10 straight victories are like Joe DiMaggio hitting safely in 56 consecutive games. His single-season win mark is like Babe Ruth's 60 homers or Roger Maris's 61. Ironically, Richard Petty scored his record-breaking 55th win with his father, Lee Petty, watching. Lee Petty had held the previous all-time mark of 54 wins.
Richard, a lot of success early in your career in the 60s, a lot of wins, a tremendous year early. But then in 1970, a track that had been awfully good to you, Darlington, was awfully bad to you.
Well, it was just one of the situations where it wasn't our day. We'd been down there earlier with the Superbird. Came back with this car, put the engine in it and stuff, but it ran about a second slower than the Superbird. But I was trying to make up the time and run it hard. And about 10 laps before this wreck, I wound up running into the wall in 1 and 2, and it messed up some of the steering on the car. And so, you know, naturally me, I run a couple of slow laps, then I tried to get back up to speed. And when I did, then I went and run into the wall coming off of 4, and as quick as I hit the wall, something broke then. And the car, you know, came down to the inside and hit the wall, turned over 4 or 5 times, and it was, up to that time, it was the most spectacular wreck I'd had, and it was kind of a funny deal. It wasn't funny for the wreck, but when it was all over with and you look back, down in 1967, I'd won a race at Darlington and broke my father's record. He had 54 wins, so I won my 55th win at Darlington. So they'd set up a plaque right there along Pit Road, big plaque up on a little pedestal and everything. Well, when I crashed, I knocked that down. I had to hit it and knock it down. So, you know, it was just one of the deals that we were lucky. What happened, basically all it did was dislocate my shoulder. All that I'd already totaled out 2 race cars in one race, and dislocated the shoulder. So I missed 3 or 4 races after that because of the shoulder. But you know, other than that, then you know, I was ready to go. All right, here we are.
Here's Andy. Andy.
That's Andy. This is, we was in California. This is when we made the announcement that I was going to drive an STP car. And, you know, we was there for Riverside. And, you know, leading up to this, we didn't have a sponsor in 72. Chrysler had withdrawn, Ford had withdrawn, so there was no factory support. So we went through Chicago and talked to Andy about doing some sponsorship. We'd had a little bit of conversation the fall the year before, but we'd never really settled on anything. And Andy was still big in Indy and trying to keep up with all that stuff. And he had done a little bit of advertisement, a little bit of stuff with Fred Lorenzen in Grand National, but he never really jumped into it full bore. And so we kept plugging away at him and talking to him. And like I said, we went through Chicago and we sat down and we agreed on some stuff. And then we run into a little problem. You know, it's one of those deals where my cars had always been blue and his cars had always been red. And we'd done worked out the money, we'd worked out all the situations. Then we came down to that. And he said, well, you know, it's going to be my car, it will be red. And I said, it's going to be my car, it's going to be blue. And so we argued back and forth. And in fact, I got up and went to the door and started out the door. And then he said, well, wait a minute, now maybe we can work something out here, you know. And, you know, when I got my contract, Andy had in the contract that for $50,000, he'd give me $50,000 if I'd paint the car red. You know, $50,000 at that time was a third of the deal we had, you know what I mean? So it would have really been a good deal, but I said no. But anyhow, we went on to Riverside, we made the announcement, and we wound up winning the race. So the first race we was with STP, we won the race. So it got off to a good start.
Signed with STP in 72, but the first big win at Daytona, Andy Granatelli standing there trying to get across the track, counting the laps down.
Well, yeah, it was just a big, big deal for all of us that day. I think King Hussein from Jordan or somewhere was over at the race, and Andy'd been up there entertaining him, and then when it got down to 6-8 laps to go, he came down trying to get across the racetrack, and naturally had to wait till it was all over with. But I think he was more excited than all the rest of the fans in the grandstand because the way it wound up, he'd won Daytona and he'd already won Indianapolis. So I guess he's the only car owner that probably ever won both races. I know he was the first one. And
is there anybody that didn't climb on the car?
And anybody that had a uniform, STP uniform on, they all climbed on the car. I don't know how it made it. I mean, it doesn't run 500 miles, and here they are expecting it to get everybody in. But everybody got in there with it. It bottomed everything out. They had to redo the hood and the top, I think, when we got back home. But the main thing was we'd won the race. All right, we'll get out here now. Andy's gonna come tearing in here in a minute. Right now we're safe from him.
Oh,
here he comes. Looks like a fullback for the Rowman High School team there. But he comes in and they had just won Indy a couple of years before that or something, and he took Andretti, and I think he just picked him up and kissed him all, and he's trying to grab me, and I was trying to get away from him. Pretty big bear. See, he done got hot. It's cold down there. Everybody's got coats on and all this stuff. He done got excited and got hot. Instead of drinking the champagne, he's taking a bath. I mean, he was really out of it, man. I mean, he was really having him a big time. I just left. He was taking up the show, which was fine with me. I'd done my act.
Oh, he's got Dad here. He's got to leave.
Oh man, that was good old days.
Ah, yes, the good old days. They continue even today. Sports heroes like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Muhammad Ali, and Joe Namath have all come and gone. But King Richard still enjoys enormous popularity and recognition. His competitive fire still burns brightly. Interaction with the fans could have tired most anyone for the amount of time Richard has spent in the limelight. But there he was at Speed Weeks 91 in Daytona, signing autographs and doing some radio shows, like this early evening visit with MRN host Eli Goldman.
Richard, good evening.
Good evening.
Loyal fan here, enjoy you. Hope this Sunday's number 201. I don't know what they'll do to that crowd control, but I hope it's 201.
They'll start rebuilding the grandstands on Monday.
We'll worry about that. Let's go ahead and get our part of it done.
Right.
We'll help them build the grandstands back.
That's great. Listen,
He also tried his hand at a benefit bowling outing. And as always, old number 43 was a fan favorite. Cars are a lot different today than they were in 1972 when this partnership began, but constants do remain. Richard Petty, his trademark sunglasses and cowboy hat, and the familiar red, white, and blue STP oval.
Richard is family after 20 years, and he's a great individual. And for us to be associated with one of the truly sports legends in racing, I think we'll always stick with STP forever and ever. And we're very proud to be part of that.
The finish at Daytona in 1976. You know, no one that's ever been to a stock car race will ever forget this thing. You and David with a lap to go.
Well, it was a situation that, you know, David and myself had been racing for all these years, and we'd come down and run a lot of ones and twos, but this particular race, we'd done outdistance everybody, and it come down to the white flag lap, and I was leading the race, and you know, I felt like David had the quickest car. Of course, he felt like I had the fastest car, but I knew what he was going to do. I knew he was going to try to slingshot the deal down the backstretch, and that's exactly what he did. The deal was there was nothing I could do. I'm running just as wide open as that thing will turn a wheel. But what happened when David goes in the turn there, then he slides up. So I'm able to go and come back down under him, see how high he went. So I come down and get up beside of him, and as we come off the corner, I thought I had him cleared, but I didn't. And this is what happened. And you know, I go on, think I got it straight, and still run into the wall, come down into the grass, and it just doesn't slide all the way. Even after that thing hit the wall, I said, man, no sweat, man, this thing's gonna slide and slide across the flag, but it didn't. And David came down, you know, when he spun down pit road, and what saved him, there was another car seen the wreck. He come down pit road, David hit him, and it straightened David out. Otherwise, David would have went into the deal in the inside wall. And here comes all my people to push me out, but you know, it's too late. And in fact, I wound up, they took a lap away from me. I wound up, we was a lap ahead of Benny Parsons, who ran third. So I still run second. I could not get the car started. It would not move. And one boy come out there, and once he got out there, then all of them decided to come, and Kyle was one of them that decided to come. And you know, it was just a a situation where he was following the crowd. He wouldn't come out there without them, and you know, they all knowed better, but in the heat of the battle, you do a lot of things.
Now, Barry Dotson was there as well?
Yeah, Barry was the first one to the car. You know, he's looking after some cars now, and he's won a couple of championships and stuff working for other people. So, you know, he was a young boy at that particular time, and he was energetic, and when he seen it happen, you know, the first thought is, you know, I got to help my boss man, so, you know, it couldn't have been a more exciting deal, and, you know, it was a situation where that nobody blamed anybody. It was just you know, you hear this deal, racing accident. That was. I thought I'd cleared him. He wasn't going to back off to let me go, and I don't blame him. So, you know, there we was.
Richard, you'd already won 6 championships, and the sport was beginning to change a little bit. There was some new blood. Some of the guys that you had raced with for a lot of years were starting to retire and hang it up, and there was some youngsters coming along. A guy by the name of Waltrip that really gave you a run for your money in '79.
Well, yeah, it wound up that we give him a run for his money the way it was, because along with, you know, 8 or 10 races to go, he had a pretty good lead on us in the points. And, you know, we went to Dover or somewhere, and we wound up winning the race, and he fell out early, and that gave us a good running start at him. And then we was back and forth the rest of the year, and we went into the last race, and I think he was leading the point standing when we went into the last race. And so Buddy Baker was you know, he qualified first or second, and I was up front. Buddy said, now, when the race starts, if I'm leading and you come up there, I'll let you pass me, and I'll give you 5 points. So we run along there, and Buddy's leading the race, and I was running second. Buddy pulled over and let me go by, and I lead a couple of laps, and then I motioned him back by. So then I am wound up 2 or 3 points ahead, you know. So then Darrell sees what's going on, and when they make a pit stop and stuff, then we come in the pits. He stays out to get his points. But when he did, he got screwed up with somebody and spun out down there and wound up losing a lap. And yeah, I think we wound up running third in the race, and he wound up 6th. So we wound up winning the point standing by 11 points. So, you know, it was right down to the wire. We was back and forth all year long, and you know, it was great to win our 7th championship too. You know, 1's good, 2's better, and they just, you know, keep multiplying.
Richard, 1981, it was coming down to what looked like a last pit stop for you.
Well, you know, it was a situation there where we'd run all day, and Bobby had been the fastest. Bobby Allison had been the fastest all week. I guess he'd sit on pole, won everything there was to win, and he was pretty well dominating the race as far as not running away from everybody, but leading the race and stuff. And you know, it came down to the right last part of the race, and you know, it was a deal that he ran out of gas, I think, going up the backstretch, and about time for a pit stop anyway. He came in and got tires. Everybody else came in and got tires and gas. Well, Dale left me out there to run just as long as I could, and knowing that, you know, we wasn't having any tire wear at that particular time, and it wasn't making our car faster to change tires, so we stayed out there. And then we came in. He said, okay, come on in. When I started down pit road, he said, okay, 1 can of gas and go. And so, you know, I said, right then, I said, if we don't run out of gas, we're going to win the race. I mean, you know, so what happened, you know, we were able to do that, put us about, I don't know, 6, 8 seconds ahead of Bobby, and, you know, we was able to maintain that lead. And the car ran out of gas coming off the number 4 corner, you know, but it was still skipping, but it still made it to the line. If it'd been a lap before that, we'd have been in trouble. But it was just one of those days where we made a right decision. We had a good car, you know, that was capable of winning the race, except Bobby, I guess, was faster than we was, and we couldn't just flat out run him. But there again, circumstances fell on our way, and made the right decision, won another race.
Richard, I don't know how you do these things, but it's like maybe someone up there is directing your life with the strings and just writing the script. Now, we STP, going to California, the announcement in Hollywood, you win at Riverside, and then in 1984, the President of the United States, Ronald Reagan, gives the command from Air Force One, and the race, probably the race of your life.
Well, it was just, like you say, if they'd have been right in Hollywood, they wouldn't have made it quite as corny as it wound up. I mean, you know, I'm a big Republican, a commissioner in Randolph County, North Carolina, and, you know, a big supporter of Reagan, and here I am on July the 4th trying to win my 200th race in front of the President of the United States, and I wound up being lucky enough to beat Cale back to the line for the win, and I just beat him by 2 or 3 foot, and it was just a situation that, you know, if you'd tell somebody or if they read it in the book, they wouldn't believe it. It had to happen in fact in order for it to work. Now we got in the same situation with Cale as I did with David Pearson in 1976. And, you know, the competitor passed me down the backstretch. They went into the 3rd corner, and they went in so hard, they went up a little bit. I was able to come back underneath. So the deal was the experience I had in 76 taught me something so that when it came down in 84, I was able to say, okay, you don't go up there and try to pull out in front of this cat. You just run along beside of him, keep him bogged down, and hope that you come back to the line first, and that's what happened. You know, 200 is very, very important, but under the circumstances, with all the presidents that's ever been in the United States, this is the first one that's ever showed up at a racetrack. So everybody's got to go from that, from racing standpoint, and I wanted to be the one that was able to welcome him to Grand National Racing.
That had to be a special moment for you to be able to walk. I mean, you went to Victory Lane, you celebrated because it was a landmark for you, but then you come across and walk in there with President Reagan.
Well, it's just a situation that, you know, I had met him a couple times before, and you know, he didn't know me, I knew him, right? And so, you know, the big deal was like you say, he's President of the United States, and he was there, and we got to talk to him a little bit, but the deal was that what blowed his mind was that we was beating on each other, coming down at 200 mile an hour. You know, fires were flying and the smoke's flying and all that stuff, and it just took his breath. I mean, you know, at that particular time, he was really jacked up. He probably don't remember it now, but he was really big on racing when he left Daytona, I'll tell you that.
He seemed as excited about that win as you were. He was so smiling and so happy. It probably looked like 2 Richard Petty smiles there.
Well, I think he was out trying to get some votes, so he was figuring that, you know, I told him, I said, it really worked out good. I mean, it was good publicity for me. It was good publicity for him. I got him on the sports page, and he got me on the front page. So, you know, because he was at the racetrack and they took all those pictures. So, you know, if you open the paper, you've seen him on the front page with me, and then you've seen me with him in the sports section. So it was a big deal for all of us, I'll tell you that.
Richard, you look so relaxed here, but this had to be an emotional day. Michigan, 1986, your 1,000 start.
Well, you know, it's just a deal. I guess all of a sudden I felt like, hey man, I've been here a long time to be able to run 1,000 races in a career. That's just you know, unheard of situation at that time. And here I was getting ready to start at Michigan and start the 1,000th race, and you know, STP had made a big promotion deal out of it. Michigan had, the whole racing fraternity had, because nobody had ever even come close to approaching the deal. And you know, I had my whole family there, all my girls, and naturally Kyle was there because he was busy racing. So it was just really a big situation for all of us.
As evidence of how important this is, you've gotten a lot of awards, but there's a whole segment of your museum that's dedicated just to this 1,000 start with all the plaques that surround this special day.
Yeah, we took the flag and all the plaques. I don't know, might even have the uniform or the hat or stuff, but just made a whole section, and like I say, just dedicated it, put the picture in there, dedicated all of it to the 1,000th start. This was a big situation for me here. My daughters were here, and you know, we're waiting to start the race. And you know, I'm sitting all anxious to start the race anyway, but I'm anxious to hear them, you know, crank up the situation that they were supposed to do.
And show your appreciation for the man known to all of us as King Richard. And in honor of Father's Day, it is only fitting that the command be given by his daughters, Rebecca, Sharon, and Lisa.
Daddy, start your engine!
I think you got got even a little bit of misty-eyed. You had the glasses on. And you had, what you
That's the reason
do?
I wear the glasses so that people can't tell when I'm emotional when I'm not.
Richard, you had a nasty one at Darlington in 1970, but nothing to compare to what happened at Daytona.
Well, I tell you, it was pretty spectacular from where I was sitting. Looks pretty spectacular from here, watching it all come apart too. It's just been a situation where that all the stuff that I've done, though, all the racing I've done, running, starting all the races, winning 7 championships, winning Daytona, I got more publicity out of this crash than I have winning all those races and stuff. Because more people they just want to look at you. Hey, you know, how do you survive? You know, how do you stand it? Why would you get back in it and all that stuff? And you know, it's just, to me, when I watch that, all I'm watching is a car. I'm no part of what's in it. So, you know, to me, it's watching it. You could have been in the car. Anybody could have been in the car. I see the car coming apart, but I don't feel any of the pain. So being I don't feel any of it, then I'm not relating back to it, and so it doesn't really bother me.
Richard Petty survived that spectacular crash to race again. And while the means of transporting his race cars have changed through the years, the destination, Daytona Beach in this case, has not. Nor has the fans' adoration for Richard Petty. The Daytona 500 by STP not only is the first race of a new season, it's the first opportunity for Winston Cup fans, some of the most loyal in all of sports, to reaffirm their faith in their heroes. Men, women, and children of all ages visited King Richard at one of his many personal appearances in Daytona Beach before a serious preparation commenced for the pursuit of that 8th Daytona 500 victory.
Ready to go. Hey, bud. How you doing? Okay? Wanna smile?
This replica of the STP Pontiac sat silently as the King subjects filed past in awe. But its STP red and petty blue racing cousin was parked a few miles down the road at Daytona International Speedway, being attended to by anxious crew members on the eve of qualifying for the 33rd running of the world's premier stock car race, the Daytona 500 by STP. Indeed, the King races on.
He's more into the fans than a lot of the drivers. You know, he'll spend time with you. He'll stop and talk to you. You know, he's just an everyday person. You know.
But this everyday person doesn't go to the office in a business suit carrying a briefcase. It's a fireproof driver's suit and that trademark cowboy hat. Every lap of practice on the track in the critical minutes before time trials translates into thousands of seconds that mean the difference between starting up front or at the back of the pack. Out again, back in, back out, and in again. It all means that the STP team, under the direction of Dale Inman, is taking advantage of every second to fine-tune the STP Pontiac for its qualifying run on Daytona's demanding 2.5-mile layout. In the midst of all this, Richard has time to meet comedian and talk show host Jay Leno, just one of the countless celebrities visiting Daytona this day to be a part of the racing scene. But Richard Petty and the STP Pontiac are in Daytona Beach for two basic reasons: to race and to win. It's now time for the business at hand, putting the STP Pontiac comfortably into one of the 125-mile qualifying races unique to Daytona. Sprint races that will help determine the final 42-car starting field for the Daytona 500 by STP.
Oh, we was doing pretty good, and then we lost it last season somewhere. We ain't never found it back yet. The thing just quit running. We couldn't figure out what our problem was.
Richard's early practice speeds were quick, but he still felt that the team may have slowed down a tick or two on the watches during the final stages of warm-ups. obviously must have regained what they had lost. At a time when NASCAR is slowing down the race cars for the sake of safety, this STP Pontiac still toured Daytona's massive oval at a speed of 193.345 miles per hour, 14th quickest among nearly 60 competitors. His speed topped that posted by three-time Daytona pole sitter Ken Schrader, defending race champion Derek Cope, and the 1986 500 winner Jeff Bodine. Having passed his first major test of Speed Weeks 91, qualifying, Richard Petty gets a day off of sorts and spends it where else? At the racetrack.
One in front, yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah, he's got them covered.
The Petty family, including Father Lee, Richard's wife Linda, and daughter-in-law Patty, have staked out a prime vantage point from which they'll watch Richard's son Kyle take on 13 challengers in the Busch Clash, NASCAR's traditional season-opening special event for pole position winners. It's a 20-lap sprint race run in 2 segments, and Kyle finished 5th in that elite field. As the race concludes, Richard now looks ahead to his qualifying race just 4 days hence. For most Winston Cup competitors, Speed Weeks is essentially 3 high-pressure races compressed into one 9-day stretch. First up is pole day, when the lineups are set for the pivotal qualifying races. Racers like the King then have 5 days to ponder strategy as their crews prepare for the 125-mile qualifying races. Richard will start 7th in the first half of this doubleheader. In 1990, the King had brought the crowd to its feet by leading portions of his 125-mile qualifying event. Once again in 91, Richard stirred emotions by marching his STP Pontiac toward the front. But after dicing with Hut Strickland and setting his sights on leader Davey Allison, a late race caution short-circuited the King's bid for the lead, and Richard finished second. The strong showing provided Petty Enterprises with a spot in the second row. Happy crew members knew the time for celebrating was short. Their thoughts quickly turned to the major task at hand. 3 more days of hard work to fine-tune the STP Pontiac for yet another day in the sun. And now as race day loomed just 24 hours away, Richard Petty was honored at a media breakfast hosted by
Richard said,
STP.
I think, in the video that someday he was going to get out from behind that wheel of that car, and starting third, it certainly isn't this year, Richard. But when he does, when that day does come, First Brands Corporation has put together an annuity program, and Richard knows about this, so he's not going to be surprised, but it's worth $1 million. Richard?
I have to leave to be 60 or 70 to get it, but I'll be there to get that too. That's just, I guess this is the first of any sponsorship situations where the sponsor said, okay, somebody's been working for us, we're going to do a little bit extra, all above the contracts, and got nothing to do with it. But I think they look back at 20 years and it's been good for us. It's been good for STP, and as I hear, instead of giving you a gold watch, they give you $1 million. That's a little bit better.
Well, we'll tell all your fans about it tomorrow morning. Thanks, Richard.
Unlike Thursday's weather, when steady rains forced a 3.5-hour delay in the start of the qualifying races, Super Bowl Sunday for the stock car set was magnificent. There is nothing quite like the air of anticipation as you stroll through a Winston Cup garage on race morning. You not only see the preparation, you can feel it. In its first year of corporate sponsorship for the world's premier stock car race, First Brands Corporation and its leading man, Richard Petty, were the centers of attention during pre-race festivities.
the press was standing down here at the green flag, and they standing out down here like this. You couldn't pay them to stand out there now.
It has etched on it.
The King was presented with a plaque commemorating his 20 years with STP. He also was given the original artwork from the cover of the official souvenir program and formally presented with the $1 million annuity. Following that emotional pre-race ceremony honoring American forces in the Persian Gulf, the time approached for the 42 principals to strap themselves into their 3,500-pound cars and begin pursuit of that $2.2 million pot of gold. As the command to fire engines is delivered, the STP crew gets revved up as well. Now in the relative solitude behind the wheel of the STP Pontiac, Richard Petty is alone with his thoughts. The race is green flagged by Mr. Alfred E. Dudley, President, Chairman, and Chief Executive Officer of First Brands Corporation. The action, as expected, is fast and furious early on. In the first 250 miles, King Richard sets a comfortable pace in order to let things settle down. Later on, excellent pit work by the STP crew on pit road gets him in and out for service in near record time. Here, race day crew chief Robbie Loomis makes a slight chassis adjustment. But suddenly, good fortune turned to bad. With just 16 laps to go, the Stock Car King sits on pit road with a heavily damaged STP Pontiac, the victim of a close encounter with the concrete wall on Daytona's long 3,500-foot back straightaway. The crew worked feverishly to repair the damage, but Richard's hopes of an 8th Daytona 500 win were gone. He would eventually finish 19th, 5 laps down to the victorious Ernie Irvin. The post-race assessment from the King was honest and concise.
Well, I just come up behind the 33, and as I went from the banking in onto the flat, the car just broke loose. I guess all the air got off the rear spoiler. The car broke loose, and it was headed for the infield, and I got it cut and got straight, and it wiggled a couple times. I thought it was going straight, and about that time, I guess I'd overcorrected and made a right-hand turn, I think. Anyhow, it spun, and you know, I hit the guardrail a couple times over there, and bit all the fenders and all. Blowed all the tires. Bad day.
When they run here in 1992, I expect we'll see you, won't we?
Whenever the next race is, I'll be here, okay?
Another Daytona 500 has ended, and one more racing season has begun. As Richard Petty moves on to other tracks, the questions are, when, what, and why? When will he retire? What still motivates him? And why does he continue?
Right now, I'm still having fun, even though Linda might not think I'm having fun doing this. I'm still having fun driving a race car, and you know, you can bet your bottom dollar for the next couple of years I'm going to be here.
The Daytona 500 by STP, NASCAR's most prestigious race. No one has won the 500 more often than Richard Petty, a 7-time Winston Cup champion who has also won the 500 7 times. Richard Petty, the fastest Pontiac driver in town, joins us tonight.
NASCAR Live from MRN Radio.
If you don't like the looks of your car, shoot it. With Son of a Gun Protected from STP. If your dash looks dull, shoot it. Your seats are shot, shoot them. Your tires look flat, heck, shoot them too. Don't leave your roof a wreck. Give it some luster. Give your car high caliber protection with Son of a Gun from STP. Son of a Gun, what a difference.
I hate to have to do a commercial where I have to act like somebody or try to act. I can't act. Then what you see is what you get.